In talking about the difference between normal lines and reference lines within the mass editor, and now I'm going to show you what that means. Here is a 100-foot square drawn with normal lines. Here's one drawn with reference lines, and here's a couple more squares drawn with reference lines. You'll see that reference lines look a lot different. If I pick line and just draw a line in space, or if I pick reference line and draw a line in space, when you select a reference line, it'll always look like it has these, it has an end axis and a sort of Z and an XY, a plane. The purpose of those is that these become sort of construction lines, construction reference lines for masses, and the planes can actually become drawing planes that you can use for various extrusions and lofts. And that will become more evident when you start working with curves. But right now I want to tell you about basic differences between them. And what I'm going to do is, I'm in the mass editor, by the way. I'm going to pick this square and I'm going to create a form. And you'll see that it gives me a form which I'll just make a 100-foot cube out of. I'm going to do the same thing with these reference lines. And I'm not sure why, but it asks you if you want a plane or the actual cubic form. So I'll pick the cubic form, make that 100 feet tall. And I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is sort of a loft between two sets of reference planes. You can do this between two sets of normal lines also. And here we are. So now what happens on the cube that was drawn with normal lines is that when I grab any of the surfaces or any of the lines or intersections, I'm going to tab over to find an intersection, I'm given the shape handles. When I do the same thing on the shape that is the form that was built off of the reference lines, you see that I'm not getting a shape handle on this side face, but I do get a shape handle on the top face. And let's see what happens here if I can grab a segment. See, interesting, it's not letting me grab a segment. I think the purpose of this is that the chain of reference lines become the thing which is sort of driving the shape. So, and you can add dimensional drivers to these things to preserve them. I'm going to back up a little bit to get us back to square. The biggest difference is that if I select a whole form that's been made from a normal line and delete it, it's all gone. If I do same thing with a shape that's made from reference lines, the reference lines remain. Now the third major difference when I lofted from a reference line to another reference line is I'm probably not going to have that shape handle on the top. Yeah, I don't, because it's being driven by this top form. And this probably becomes a very much more useful way of doing things if you want to have strict dimensional controls on a building form, and it's a building form that's a lofted shape, something that tapers from one size floor plate to another, and then of course another. You can make as many, you can loft through as many chain of reference lines as you'd like. And actually, just one more thing, if I come in and select this entire shape and delete, again with the reference lines I'm left with the generative reference lines. They're still there. Quite often if you've destroyed a form, you can get a little bit upset because you're not left with anything. If you do use reference lines, you don't get the benefit of the shape handles, but there is something left over if you happen to destroy the form.